Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday morning, and welcome to a second rendition of and Mom Chat. And so, yes, today I want to tell you guys a story, something that happened to me a couple of days ago that I think really has given me a lot of clarity on why people who maybe are interested in the Flylady system or maybe have initiated the Flylady system and they're not having good results. Um, it kind of like illuminated to me like why some people might be struggling. Um, it really highlighted an issue that typically I would have problems with, but because of the way that I approach the Flylady system, I didn't really have those problems this time. And I think what I'm going to talk about today is um, maybe why I had success with the program the first time around, whereas typically I would struggle with like new systems, new frameworks, new ways of doing things. And so I want to talk about that today. So before I do, let me talk about what happened. Basically, a couple of days ago, I was talking with one of you guys, one of my subscribers who's now a friend. And basically, she reached out to me and she was like, I need help making sense of the Flylady system. And um, and so I was like, sure, let's talk about it. Because to me, the Flylady system is so clear in my mind, like how it works. And I can see the big picture. And to me, this is kind of like one of the least overwhelming approaches to homemaking that I've ever tried. And so I assumed that I would be able to assume that it would be as clear to her as it was to me. And as I was going through and I was like breaking down the system and kind of talking about kind of objectives that you should be striving for each day and how this is going to make your life easier. It just, I don't know, I guess saying the system out loud and really trying to break it down to someone else made it very obvious that maybe the system is not as straightforward to people as it feels to me. And so that really got me thinking because I was actually planning to release another video on Monday, kind of explaining the Flylady system. But after that interaction with her, I just realized that that might not actually be the best approach to talking about the system. And it kind of gave me clarity to why Flylady. Hey, good morning, Jean. Thank you so much for jumping on. But it gave me so much clarity to why Flylady really emphasizes baby steps. Why I haven't really come across where she just lays everything out. This is what you do starting day one. She really breaks it down and encourages people to do step one before you move on to step two. And I think going forward, I will find a way to also talk about the system in pieces, which I kind of do, but really being mindful of being mindful that sometimes when you're starting a new thing, it can be very overwhelming. And honestly, I think that if somebody would have explained the Flylady system to me the way that I explained it to my friend, hey, good morning, Brooke. Thank you so much for jumping on. But the way that I tried to explain it to my friend, I would have been completely turned off. And so that was a huge learning opportunity for me. Hey, Carol, thank you guys so much for jumping in today. So yeah, so basically, what did I learn from this? Like I said, I think Flylady, the system can be a little confusing when you're first starting. But I think what happened with me and why I didn't experience like that feeling of overwhelm and confusion when I first started is because I didn't even attempt to research the system, to understand it from beginning to end. When I finally decided to do the program, I think I went on the Flylady YouTube channel. I listened to a couple of her videos and I was like, this lady's speaking my language. And I got the book. And the way that the book is set up, it's not set up for you to read the whole thing from beginning to end and then implement, because that was my plan. When I purchased the Flylady book I didn't think that I would be able to implement that plan at that moment because it was kind of a busy season in my life and we had many guests in the home, and I was just like, it's going to be too much. And so my initial plan was just to get ready, get everything organized, get my paperwork together, get my control journal ready, and then once everybody left, then I would begin. But as I was reading the book, Flylady Marla, she really encouraged us to just do like one small thing, which was get all the dishes out of your sink, right? And so for me, the most important thing that she said was, you don't have to do the dishes, because if she would have told me to do the dishes, I would have felt like, no, I'll do that later. Knowing myself, I don't feel like doing the dishes right now. But she was like, I'm not telling you to do the dishes. Just put them somewhere else. Don't put them in the sink. And so I'm like, that just sounds like the most simple thing to do. Why not? And so even though I didn't think that I could start the system with so many people in my home at that time, I was like, you know what? This is such a simple thing to do. Let me just do it, and we'll go from there. And then the next baby steps were so simple, like put on some shoes, get dressed, do your makeup. I was like, these are things I do already, so let me just do the next thing, put on my shoes. And then once I got that step set up, then she was like, okay, now we're going to work on routines. And I'm like, and the routines that we're going to do is just keep your sink clean and pick like 2 or 3 little hot spots, and we're going to just do that. And so I was like, okay, let me just do that. And so what had happened was, I think what was different for me in this experience is that I was doing step 1 before I moved on to step 2, before I moved on to step 3. And I think what is happening for a lot of people is that you're trying to do like 10 steps at one time, and not even trying to do it. You're trying to understand 10 steps at one time, and you have a lot of holes and gaps in your understanding of the system, because there's only so much that you can learn when you research, when you watch the YouTube videos. But there are some things that you just have to experience for yourself. You just have to do it in order to understand how that system can work for your family. And so one thing that you will never be able to find on anyone's YouTube video, on anyone's instructional how, on anyone's checklist, is how each action is going to make you feel. Whenever Flylady told me to empty the dishes out of my sink, I had no idea the effects that would have on my mindset, on my family, on my home. I had no idea the consequences that would happen next. And so it's like, if I would have read that step without doing it and read the next step, I would be missing so much information. I don't know if that makes sense to you guys. If it does or does not, just any questions you guys have, like, leave them. But basically, I'm just saying there's so much information. You have to take into account the trickle effect that each step will have in order for you to find that clarity that you are searching for when you're watching the YouTube videos, when you're printing the checklist, when you're reading the book. A lot of you guys, I feel like you want step 1 through 10, but you get step 1 through 10, you're overwhelmed, and you're like, but what about this? What about that? When would I get to this? And you're like, okay, this is just too much. Like, it's not going to work. But you're missing so much information, which is, like I said, the trickle effect, how each step is going to make you feel. And so here are some unexpected consequences that happened from just getting dishes out of my sink. I did not realize that keeping dishes out of my sink would trigger me to do my dishes more often. When dishes are in my sink, like, I'm comfortable. Like, I can literally have a full sink of dishes and go to sleep at night and sleep like a baby. I can have 2 sinkfuls of dishes and be like, I am on top of it today. But once dishes start creeping on my counter, I start feeling some type of way. And I start feeling like, okay, like, this is getting out of control. I need to do something about it. And I was not expecting to be triggered more often by keeping dishes like on my counter, because I don't like the way that looks. And so I didn't realize that I would want to do the dishes more often. Not that I felt like dreading it and like, oh my gosh. And I didn't realize that because, like, my countertop, I have like space there, but I didn't realize that the amount of dishes that it would take to trigger me would be enough to fill the dishwasher, and I wouldn't be left with okay, I've done these. Now I have to wait for 2 hours for these to finish. And then I'm going to like do the second load, but I've done the second load. But look, there's a third load already starting to build up. Like I don't have to deal with build up because I'm triggered to do the dishes so often and so soon before they have a chance to get to that point. So I didn't realize that I would be keeping my dishes under control with just that one little thing. I didn't realize that if my dishes are out of my sink, that I think most people kind of wipe the area around their sink and you're like, I have the rag already. Let me just go over here and hit these countertops too, since I'm already doing it. I didn't realize that having clean countertops would make me feel like I might as well go sweep the floor. Like my kids just left a mess over here. I have a second. Like I didn't overwhelm myself with the dishes. Like it only took me like 6 minutes to get them. I have energy, so let me go over here and sweep this up really fast, you know. That was one thing I used to struggle with a lot with before Flylady is sweeping that floor 3 times a day after my kids have eaten, because I honestly got to the point where I'm just like, if y'all gonna make a mess every time we eat, like there's no point in me doing this, like if y'all still gonna live here. And I felt like we had visitors at some point, and I felt like maybe I had a reputation for just having like the messy floor, because like I just kind of gave up for a period of time. I was, especially right after I had my babies, my twins, like I just kind of like gave up for a minute, and I'm like, that food's gonna sit there until the end of the day because I'm not sweeping this stuff at 3 times a day. But I didn't realize that one simple act of pulling dishes out of the sink would trigger me to want to sweep my floor, because now I have all this energy. I didn't just have the battle of my life with these dishes, and I'm like, okay, like it just looks weird to have a clean countertop, to have clean dishes, and to have like food on the floor. It created tension in me that made me want to just go ahead and get it done. So it's like, if I would have been looking at the Flylady system from, I need to understand how everything works, I need to get the list, I would have been missing the tension, like how the system made me feel, how that step made me feel, the trickle effect that would come from that one step, and what other things I would possibly attach to that one step that would help improve my life. And so that's the problem, I think, if you're overthinking the system and if you feel like you have to make sense of it in your head and on paper before you take action on it, because you'll never know how the system is going to impact you specifically. And so I'm just thinking of like the next step on there was just do your routines, right? And so for me, the routines that I did were the shiny sink rule, as I talked about, keeping dishes out of your sink, not doing your dishes, keeping them out of your sink and putting them somewhere else, and then let whatever may happen, let it happen. So I talked about the consequences that came from that. So the next step was like keeping my hot spots clear. So I picked like 2 or 3 hot spots. And once again, I had no idea the trickle effect that would come from that. And so it's like the countertops, the surfaces that give me the most problems, all of a sudden my dishes are clean and those hot spots are clean. And when I have guests over, like all of a sudden I just have like all this confidence. I didn't realize that, you know, if those 2 surfaces were clean, then all of a sudden I'm like, well, let me just grab these few little toys on the floor and let me just go ahead and pick this up, like, because everything else is looking so neat and tidy. It created tension in me that just made me want to finish the job. And so I feel like sometimes people may come to my channel and they may see that my checklists are so minimal. I have to keep them minimal, because if my list is very long, then I start getting overwhelmed and I'm like, I don't want to do this. I start putting stuff off. And I know, because I've done each step and I focus on one step at a time, the consequences that radiate out from each step. And I think that that's one thing that I don't do well with explaining. And maybe it should be that way, because the way each baby step has affected me and has trickled out, you may experience something different. And so it's just kind of one of those things that if you want clarity, it's like there's no way around it. You have to do it first and then see how you feel and see what else it leads to. And so because if you don't take the action and you think it has to make sense on paper first, that's like a really fast way to get overwhelmed. And so, so I was talking about my hot spots. Yeah. So like most of my room, so I did my 3 hot spots at first, and all of a sudden I felt like my living room was looking good, my dining area was looking good, and like my entryway was looking good, and it just made me want to just finish the job. Like pretty much the hardest parts to keep clean are already done. So I'm like, well, I might as well go ahead and finish the thing. And so once I started doing my zone cleaning, that created new hot spots in other areas of my house. And so, like, for example, my bedroom, we have to make our bed and clean like the hot spots in there. And I'm like, well, if the hot spots are done, like the room is almost clean, like let me just pick up these pants off the floor. Let me just knock these shoes in the closet. And so it just really propels you to take the next couple of steps. And I think that that's why it confuses people. And I don't know. I think that's where the gap is for a lot of people. And you're like, but what about this? What about that? Like some things you don't have to write on a list. It's like if you do the hardest part, which is do the dishes, do the hot spots, then everything else all of a sudden feels easy for you. I'm going to tell you guys about another consequence that I was not expecting when I started this system that brought so much relief to me. I specifically remember one day doing all my routines. I did my morning routine. I did my zone cleaning for the day, and I did my basic weekly plan. So for me, those are the 3 things I do each day, or I try the best to do each morning. And usually if I decide to rush through it, like let's say my kids love me that day and they don't want to give me any problems, maybe all of that together would take about 45 minutes to an hour. I specifically remember one day just being like, what do I do now? Like, my dishes are done, my house looks presentable. It's not perfect, but I know I'm going to be zone cleaning every day, so it'll get there. And I've done everything on my checklist. I remember just being like, what do I do? Like, with my time, like, usually I'm either struggling with the kids or I'm cleaning something. And so it just felt like such a sense of relief to just be like, all of a sudden I have like all this time in my day, and like I don't feel this pressure that I should be cleaning the closet because I know I'm gonna like work on that next week, and I should be organizing this. And so there's just so much you can't take into consideration when it has to make sense on paper first. You just don't know how it's gonna make you feel, and you don't know the trickle effects that is gonna have. So that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about. I'm gonna go back up and read some comments from you guys. This is from Carol. We have to understand this in terms of taking a class. The facilitator does not give us all the information on the first day. Yes, we get bits and pieces each day we attend class. It's so true, because how do you expect the things on day 60 to make sense to you, like if you don't really have a foundational understanding of like the stuff that they teach on day 1, 2, and 3. And so it makes so much sense. And it may sound like I'm being like kind of hard on some of you guys, and as I mentioned in every video, I'm not talking to you guys specifically, I'm talking to myself, because this is something that I struggle with now, and maybe not so much with the Flylady system, but with other things. And this is something I am working myself out of now in other areas of my life, which I may talk about later on towards the end of this. But this has certainly been my lifelong struggle, is feeling the need to know everything before I can start. Like, I'm somebody, I do not like to set myself up in a situation where I feel like I might fail. I do not feel like I like wasting time. So I'm like, I need to make sense of this. Does it make sense? Like, does this work? And like, can I be successful at this? And so I understand that need to feel like you have to have all the pieces together before you can start, because that is my journey, that is my struggle. And so I just want you guys to know that I'm coming at this, I'm really talking to myself, and so and trying to muster up the courage to do some other things in my life that feel scary, but that I feel like I have to make complete sense of before I start. And I'm just like becoming to the realization that some things, like sometimes the answer to what you want in life is like right there in front of your face. Like, you're searching, you're researching, you're watching the videos, you're reading the book, like the answer is right there in front of your face, but you can't understand it because you haven't done step 1. Like, you know what step 1 is, but you're like, wait, let me see step 10 first before I do it. And you haven't really grasped step 1 and the trickle effect that will come out from step 1. And and so sometimes it's scary to like start stuff and not know like what you're getting into, what the end consequence is going to be, or not the end consequence. I think it's important to have like a goal, but sometimes not having that gap in the middle and understanding, I understand that that can be scary. And, you know, for me, it makes me feel very uncomfortable. But it's just so beautiful that how something like a cleaning system can help you bring clarity into areas that you might be struggling with, or things that you might be struggling with in other areas of your life. Because it's like, if you struggle with getting overwhelmed with cleaning, there's a good chance that you struggle with getting overwhelmed in other areas of your life. And this might just be why that need to make sense of everything on paper before you can even take step one. And so I think that's why she really pushes the baby steps. That's why I don't think I haven't watched nearly enough of her videos, nearly all of them. I haven't watched very many, but I'm like, every time I watch it, I don't really see an emphasis on, okay guys, we're gonna go through the steps, and here's step one. Like, she really encourages baby steps, and I really feel like this is why. Like, stop trying to do everything at once, stop trying to plan and think of everything at once, and just start here and see how this makes you feel first, and then go from there. And if you don't like the way this makes you feel, like, how can you tweak it and make it work for you? And so hi Sarah, thank you so much for coming in. Hi Carol. And Sarah, I'm unloading my dishwasher as I watch. Yes, girl, I need to go unload mine. I'm gonna like do my morning routines here once I get done with coffee and car chat. I usually start around 8 o'clock. So yes, girl, way to get it done. This is from MB. Wow, I needed to hear this. This is the main obstacle for me to start. And MB, I could totally understand, because like I said, that's like my struggle, and that's one that I'm trying to overcome, and I totally understand how that can be difficult. This is from Elizabeth. For me, it's so difficult to shine the sink and it's empty. So Elizabeth, are you saying that you're having difficulty with like doing the shine your sink step? Yeah, I would like to hear your response to that. And so for me, I'll let you know kind of how I approach that. I do not, this sounds awful, but I do not do the physical act of like buffing out the sink and shining it every night. To me, when I read that book, I interpreted that as, just don't let people put stuff in the sink anymore. And so I just do my basic little, wipe it down or whatever, but I do not put too much effort into like doing like a 3-step process to make it shine. And I'm sure if I did, I would feel so happy and so confident to see it like reflecting and shining back on me. But literally, to me, I only interpreted that step as, this is not going to be your holding place for dishes anymore. Find somewhere else. Wherever that is for you, great. For me, I ended up just rinsing my dishes off and putting them on the counter, and that works for me. I know I've had comments from people who are like, you're not supposed to do that, you're supposed to put it in the dishwasher. I'm like, dude, it works for you. Like, for me, as long as my dishes are getting cleaned on a regular basis, like, I do not get offended by like 1 or 2 cups. Now once it starts looking like 10 and it starts spreading out, that is my cue, like, girl, do something with these dishes. And so for me, that happens a lot faster than it used to when I kept my dishes in my sink. And for me, I think it just kind of created an interruption in my habit and in my pattern and my old ways of doing things and my old ways of thinking. So now, for a while, it made me just more conscious of the dishes so that I would do them more often. And it's like, if you're doing them more often, then they have less of a chance to build up and to become overwhelming. And so that's my interpretation of it. I don't take the shining part so seriously. Just, nobody's allowed to leave dishes at my sink. And it literally took my family 2 or 3 days to jump on board. And, I told you guys that when I started the Flylady system, my initial intention was to wait for everyone to leave my house. We probably had like 3 or 4 guests at that time. And I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to keep up with dishes from my family and also guests. I just can't do it. I've decided that I couldn't do it. And so just that one act alone, I was able to stay on top of those dishes. Like, it was not a big deal for me at that time. And that's when I think I realized that this system was going to work. Like, if I could make these changes and feel this kind of relief from my dishes, and we have all these people in the house, like, I'm going to be just fine once, we go back to normal and things kind of like, like our guests leave and things kind of go back to normal. And so it's really an effective thing, and you can make it as simple as you want to, or you can make it as complex as you want to. But I recommend, if you're getting overwhelmed, just start with the basics. Just, that's not no longer a storing house. And if anybody drops dishes in the sink, like, don't go off on them. Just pick it up and move it over to the counter, and then that's the end of that. And after a while, like, I don't think, like, everybody just pretty much doesn't do it now in my family, because that's kind of the rule that I established. And so let me go back and read some comments. Okay, this is from Sarah. I don't have to buff it dry either, because 2 seconds later my family will turn on the water. It's so true. The step to have it empty, no dishwasher. Oh, that's so hard when you don't have a dishwasher. And so for that, sometimes what I do is, like I said, I don't let anybody drop dishes in the sink. And so if you don't have a dishwasher, the benefit that could come from leaving your sink as a sacred zone, like nobody's allowed to mess with this, is that when you are ready to do the dishes, let's say that, I think in the book, Flylady was like, ma'am, even if you need to get you a little bucket, you need to put your little dirty dishes in the bucket and put it under your sink. I don't care what you do with it, just don't put it in the sink. And so the benefit is, like, whenever it is time to do dishes, I love that I can just run a sink of hot soapy water without all the drama. Like, I don't have to reach my hand into any nasty dishes. I don't have to reach my hand into any water, because I used to do that. I used to let dishes soak. I'm gonna let them soak overnight. And then, like, of course, my husband, he helps me out so much around the house. He helps me out with dishes, but he's not trying to stick his hand in that cold, greasy water. And so, like, by having the sink empty, that's another consequence, another trickle effect that I wasn't expecting. He jumps in so much more, because it's so easy for him to, like, do it now. The dishes are on the counter, they're ready, the sink is empty. It is so easy for anyone to just jump in and make a hot soapy sink of water. And so if you don't have a dishwasher, I would say be encouraged, because now the dish doing process should be faster. It's so simple to just run a sink full of hot soapy water, do what you need to do, and then drain it back out. And so the only time that dishes should be in your sink is when you're doing them. And then that will just make it, for me, it makes it a little easier. And so, because sometimes I'm not always the best about rinsing my dishes out, like, immediately. And so once they have a chance to, like, sit and get dry, sometimes that's the fastest way for me to wash them, is to run that hot sink of soapy water, and then throw my dishes in there and then do them, because the water and the soap kind of helps get everything off. And so if I had that whole obstacle of having to take everything out first, I totally would do dishes a little less often, and it would just create more obstacles for me. And so this is from Maggie. Same here. I'm thinking you're talking about the dishwasher, not having a dishwasher. That's so tough, you guys. I've been doing the Flylady way of shining the sink, but I typically only spray with disinfectant and let it sit for about 10 minutes, go back and wipe it out and rinse. Yeah, let's go. I need to probably get better with spraying stuff in there. I kind of do it from time to time, but right now, with everybody being home for the coronavirus quarantine thing, I'm having to wash dishes a little more often. Like, before, I was doing well with running a load in the morning and running a load kind of at night. Well, I would say kind of around, like, before dinner. And so now I'm having to run my dishwasher most days 3 times a day. And so I'm washing dishes, like, throughout the day. So I don't really spray it every time, but I do, like, take a little bit, like, of my soap left on my rag, and I'll just run it in there, get the food out, and just move on with my life. But y'all know I'm not like the tidiest person in the world. I'm literally just trying to do enough for me to feel comfortable. But yeah, so anyway, this is from Carol. That's exactly what I believe. Just keep the sink empty. Yeah. And this is from Maggie. I think it's the concept and habit of caring for things on a regular basis. That is so true. Like, for me, it's just kind of like doing things when they're small really prevents, like, overwhelm for me. When I do the dishes and there's only, like, 10 on the countertop, and I'm, like, freaking out because I'm like, oh my God, this has gone too far. I have really improved my relationship with doing dishes. Like, I don't love doing dishes, but I don't hate it as much, because I'm like, this is so easy now. It's easy to do the dishes when there's only, like, 10 in there, or 10 to 15 dishes. Like, it doesn't feel like so burdensome anymore. And so and that's one thing I've learned. Like, the more you touch stuff, the more you touch those dishes, the more you're doing something with the laundry, the easier that it feels. And that's a trickle effect that I wasn't expecting. Like, I remember feeling that tension, like, as soon as I read in the book Excuse me. Let me drink my coffee, y'all. I'm getting thirsty. Okay. I remember feeling that tension. Like, as soon as I read in the book, like, oh, I'm expected to keep these dishes out of my sink. Oh, I'm expected to keep these hot spots under control all day. I immediately felt like I can't do it. It's too hard. It's too overwhelming. And like, but like I said, it's from doing that I realized that, oh, okay, so what's happening is, since I'm touching this stuff every morning and every night, I just assumed that I would be fighting with these dishes every morning and every night. I just assumed that I'd be fighting with these hot spots every morning and every night, because that's been the only relationship that I've had with cleaning like my entire life. And so I wasn't expecting it to just feel lighter and easier. And so yeah, so I brought my notes, you guys. I know I said I was trying to be like more go with the flow, and I am. This is not like my usual typed up outline that I usually create, but I just want to make sure that I touch on everything that I wanted to talk about today. Yeah, basically the whole theme of this is just, if you feel like you're overwhelmed with the system, like you've been spending a lot of time trying to make sense of it, trying to map everything out from beginning to end, and really wanting to understand how it works, there are just some things that you have to do first. You have to do it. You know, I'm learning that there's so much clarity that comes from just doing, coming from the action. And so Flylady's book did a great job for me. When I did the program, I honestly did not know what I was getting into. I had no idea about the system, because I felt like reading it from the book was like the least confusing way for me to do it as possible. And I'm so grateful that every single chapter of the book, she was like, okay, get up and go do it. And it's like she created these little tiny stepping stones for me to like build new habits, for me to experience a different a different relationship with cleaning. And I'm so grateful that she kind of created the book in a way that encouraged me to start before I really knew what I was getting into, and that I trusted her enough just from reading her words that she propelled me into action. And so that is one thing that I don't know how to do, but that is, if that's something that I could do, like as a person talking about the Flylady system, that is like my new mission. I had these awesome printables that I wanted to present to you guys this week, and I was like, it's so easy to follow along with the system. But after that conversation with my friend, I'm like, that's not the right way to go about it. It can be very overwhelming to just try to do the whole thing, and to understand the whole thing at once. And so my goal is to really try to be very mindful of how to encourage action so that you can experience it for yourself. And it's like, you don't even have to do the whole system, to get that feeling that this could work for me. Like for me, I'm like, even if I would have stopped at keep the dishes out of your sink and keep your hot spots clear, I probably, even if I decided that the rest of the system didn't work for me, I don't think I would have ever given those things up. And like, that would have been something that I would have picked up and I would have learned. That would have been something that I would have kept with me forever, because I really liked the way that step made me feel. And so I wanted to, before I go, give some more examples of like unexpected trickle effects. Flylady has the weekly home blessing, and so I remember when I read that before I had done it the first time, I was like, how am I supposed to vacuum my whole house in 10 minutes? Like, I'm gonna have to race, I'm gonna have to break my neck. I just remember feeling like it's not gonna work. And then even when I was doing it, I was just like, this is not working. Like, I'm doing an awful job. Like, I'm kicking. How dare I vacuum when this room is not clean? How dare I just swerve around this pile of stuff on the floor? It's like, and it's just kind of like, once I got to the other side and I was like walking around my house, I had no idea how it would make me feel to just see the middle of my floor vacuumed. Like, this whole time I've been thinking that I have to do it in a certain way, do it perfectly, and I had no idea that I would be okay with the way that my floor looked when I was done. I had no idea or to expect that. Sorry, my husband, he's coming out. Okay. He just made me feel nervous. And so anyway, what was I gonna say? Another thing. Oh, I had one, and my husband just like threw me off my A game a little bit. Hold on. What was I gonna say? Okay, so while I'm thinking, I would love for you guys, especially the ones who have been doing the system or you have implemented some piece of the system, will you guys please share with me some like unexpected things that you have experienced from doing the Flylady system, whether that be like, oh, since this is clean now, I just feel like I might as well go clean this too, or even like your relationship with cleaning. I would love to know kind of like if you guys are experiencing the same thing, because I don't know, like I just feel like I don't think a lot of people talk about that, and I think that it's important for people who tend to overthink like me and who tend to overwhelm themselves to like hear you guys' story as well, if you guys have that story, or yeah, I just want to know if you guys can relate. And so I feel like I had another one. I was talking about the weekly home blessing. What was I gonna say? Oh, so zone cleaning. Yeah, like I don't know what I thought was gonna happen with zone cleaning. Like I understood her when she read the book, but I don't think for zone cleaning that I don't think I realized that I would literally revolutionize my whole home. Like I had no idea. Like I was not thinking about like what things would look like 30 days from now, 60 days from now. Like if I showed up and I did the 15 minutes here and there. I only zone clean 3 days a week. Like I had no idea that these, like when I'm doing my weekly home blessing and I'm like, oh my God, I'm vacuuming around piles of crap. I had no idea that like in 2 to 3 weeks that those piles of crap would be gone and I would be doing like traditional vacuuming, traditional mopping, and like all the stuff that was stressing me out. I had no idea that a lot of those stress factors, the cluttered closets, the piles of crap in random places in my house, that it would just all disappear just through consistency. So basically my conclusion is you just don't know. Like there's some things that you can't map out in a book. There are some things that are in your notebook. There's some things that you just can't plan for, and the best way to do it is just to start and then go from there. So anyway, let's see, I have comments. Okay, this is from Ruthie. Hi, watching you all the way from Israel. Hey girl, thanks so much for jumping in. You really inspired me to finally start. Yay! This is from Maggie. I like how you relate the baby steps to other things in your life. Yeah, I don't really keep up with zone cleaning. I clean when I have time, and since I've been decluttering for years, it doesn't take long. I can do a quick 10-minute clean in most rooms as declutter. Yeah, that's kind of where I am. Is it Lee? That's kind of where I am too. Like I have so many spaces that are like as clutter free as I feel comfortable with. Like I don't need everything to be perfect, and so most rooms in my house I can pull together in about 10 minutes. But I do have spaces that it's like, okay, this is one thing I just wanted to throw in there. Like I don't know, you guys have probably noticed like my home doesn't have like a lot of decorations in it, and that was like one concern that I had. Like I always felt like, okay, I'm already struggling with clutter. Like I am not about to go buy decorations. That's just more stuff for me to clean, more clutter. And now because I've decluttered so many spaces in my home, like that's what I'm thinking about now, is like because I'm always trying to ask myself, how can I make this better? How can I level this up? And so that is my quest now, is like, how do I use my zone cleaning time to like make it pretty and like decorate? And I'm not good at that. So if you guys have any resources on making your home like more aesthetic, let me know, because I finally feel like I'm in a place to do that, because I'm not struggling with clutter as much as I used to. And this is from Carol. You're doing great. Thank you so much. You're so kind. This is from Elizabeth. I've tried it 2 times, and this is my 3rd time because I saw a video and said to myself, I will try it again. Way to go, Elizabeth. Good luck. And like I said, the biggest thing for me is if I could offer any advice on that, is just do like, the first 1 or 2 steps, and like really just try to get comfortable with those before you move on. Like it's not a race. We're not behind. I like to think of myself as I'm ahead. Like I have like time to get this stuff done. So let me just start a little early, and just really give yourself time to grow into each step and really experience it before you feel like you have to do everything at once. Because I do think that that's kind of like what hangs up people, is trying to do too much at one time. And so this is from Sarah. You are encouraging, especially in your stance against perfectionism. I never heard someone talk about Flylady the way you and Steph from Secret Slob does. It makes me feel more acceptance. Oh, Sarah, that's so sweet. And yes, like, I feel like it's just crazy because, like, I think I've said this in another video that I did not expect. That's another trickle effect I didn't expect. I didn't know that I was a perfectionist. I always thought that perfectionism, like like people who struggle with perfectionism also had lives that looked perfect. And so I was like, there's no way I'm struggling with perfectionism. Do y'all see this hot mess I'm dealing with over here? And so that's another trickle effect, is I didn't expect an awareness of perfectionism that I have now. And so it's just crazy how sometimes we could be fighting these enemies, perfectionism, and it's like you are just getting beat up and knocked down in this battle because you don't even realize like that there's an enemy there and that you're fighting against something. And for me, I realized that that is my struggle. Like, I struggle with perfectionism, and not from the sense of, as I mentioned all the time, that, oh my God, everything has to be perfect, but from the sense of, like, I suck. Like, I'm doing such a bad job at this. I have all these ideas in my brain about the way things should be done, the way things ought to be done. And I always feel like, well, if I can't do that right now, then let me just wait until later. Let me wait until I have the right time to do it. Let me wait until things are right. And then let me wait until I get the new thing. Let me wait until I get the right mop. Let me wait until I get the right bed set. Let me wait until I get the money. Let me wait. And then once things are right, then I can do it. And, you know, one thing that you will learn is that there's never a right time. There's never perfect conditions. And if you're always waiting, and things just never get done, and it just makes you feel even worse about yourself. And so I love that Flylady has really opened my eyes to another layer of perfectionism that people don't really talk about very often, or that I just wasn't aware of. Perfectionism, procrastination, paralysis. I think I read that in one of her emails, and that is exactly what it is. It's you're waiting for things to be perfect, which leads to procrastination, and to the point where you're so overwhelmed that you just feel like paralyzed and things just don't get done. And I feel like this system has really shown me that, you know, like, you might not be able to get it all done today, but hey, can you do just this one little thing right here? And it's like doing that one little thing and seeing progress in that one area. Just, I don't know, it just is it's so healing, and it just gave me so much relief that it really motivated me to just keep going. And things are not perfect now, but I do feel a greater awareness of perfectionism, and I do feel like a greater sense of joy, because now that I know what the enemy is, what I'm fighting, now it gives me in a position, it puts me in a position to make a choice. Like, do I want to struggle with perfectionism in that area? Do I want to make choices that support perfectionism, or do I want to make choices that help me make progress and help me do a little better? And even though I can't do it the right way, like, at least let me try to do something about it. And to me, that's just been so healing, to just be like, it's okay that I can't do it perfectly today, but I'm just going to do something about it today, and something about it tomorrow, and something about it the next day, and eventually it will get better. And I don't know, it's just been a really healing thing for me, to become aware and to start making choices that go against that, and that goes the other way. And I agree with you, Sarah. This is from Maggie. This is from, is it Lee or Lay? Lee. I'm gonna go with Lee. The general need to declutter regularly now. I love going around collecting things for charity. To me, I'm doing my bit for my trash. It's someone else's treasure. Exactly. Like, decluttering has been like, Flylady's stance on decluttering has been like a super game changer for me, because I always thought I was decluttering until like Flylady's perspective, or Marla's perspective, about, don't just be like, oh, this is good quality, oh, I bought it, I gotta keep it, because it will shackle you down. Like, you only have so much space in your home, and we should be putting a lot more value on space than we do. And so yeah, I feel like I've just been a little more aggressive when it comes to decluttering, because I'm always evaluating, is this item appropriate for my family, and is it appropriate for this season, and have we moved past this item, have we grown past this item? And I'm just a lot more okay with like letting things go than I have been in the past. And so and I know that's a hard journey. I've made videos about that because of my childhood. There's like a lot of like mental factors that I had to work through, and I know that some people are struggling with that and they don't know, or maybe they are aware of and they don't realize that they can give themselves permission to like do it anyway. And so yeah, Flylady's stance on decluttering has been just game changing, and it's like the less stuff you have, the easier it is to clean your house, right? And this is from Sarah. The power of the timer. Stop at 10 or 15 minutes and see what a difference it made. I can squeeze it into little pockets of my day. The overall effect throughout the week is really powerful. That's so true, Sarah. And that's pretty much the only type of cleaning that I do. I used to do a lot of binge cleaning. Start, from one side of the house and work through the other. And it's just been more powerful for me to do 10 minutes here, 15 minutes here. And now that I have my twins, they won't even let me clean my entire house at one time, even if I wanted to. And so that's pretty much my lifeline right now. 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes at lunch or dinner. I kind of clean as I go. 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes at lunch. I kind of clean a little bit as I go in my evening routine by just doing like a room rescue in my bathroom, room rescue in my bedroom. And then once those babies go down, that's my last 15 minutes of the day. And it's like enough. And then if I have time and energy, I may do zone cleaning in another or wherever zone we're in for that week. And then at least I'm seeing things change and we're making progress. But in terms of keeping things under control and not letting things build up, like for me, that's all it takes. 15 minutes, clean as you go, 15 minutes. Like that's all I can do. And that's all I really have the energy and motivation to do right now. This is from Lee again. Once decluttered, so much easier to deep clean. It becomes a good energy all around. I agree with you so much. This is from Elizabeth. I feel amazing after having my bed done. I have two hot spots that nobody dares to put anything to put something. Every time I see it, I feel so accomplished. It's so true. And that's like, to me, I'm like, I didn't realize that the trickle effect from making your bed and touching that hot spot is that it does make you feel accomplished. And if you're like, to me, it creates tension. It creates if I see something on the floor, I'm just like, I might as well just pick it up. Like the room is almost clean. I've handled the two hardest things, making the bed and knocking the stuff off my hot spot. And that only took me 3 minutes. I'm sorry, I just kind of projectile spit on you guys. I'm so sorry. But that only took me 3 minutes. I might as well just pick up the shoes and pick up the pants. That will only take me 2 seconds. And so I didn't realize, like I said, the feelings that would be created from just doing those small little baby steps. And so no, I don't put a list a mile long, pick up this, pick up that, do this. I don't think about too much outside of the stuff, my very minimal morning routine checklist, because I know that there's a trickle effect that will happen if I just show up and do those things. That the other stuff, it will all kind of work itself out. And so this is from Carol again. I used to keep a Mr. Washmore all the time. I'm now doing laundry every other day with no mountain to climb. Yes, that's so true. I'm so glad. I feel like my dining room used to be a permanent station for my laundry. There's just always so much laundry there. And I'm also happy that now when people walk into my house, they don't have to be introduced to my laundry every time. So yeah, that's a good feeling. I will be glad when I'm totally decluttered. Brooke, it's not going to take as long as you think it will. Well, it depends how often you can show up. To me, after just a couple of months, even now, things are not perfect, but I just felt so much relief. I would say about 2 to 3 months, a lot of the major stuff was just gone. Those 15 minutes are so powerful if you can just do it consistently. And I think that's the hardest part, is having the willingness to show up as often as you can. Because sometimes you just don't feel like doing zone cleaning. But then I have to tell myself what Flylady says in her book, Marla says in her book, I can do anything for 15 minutes. I can do anything for 15 minutes, and then I just get started. Some days, literally, I'm just such a zombie in my brain, but I'm just let me just do the motions. I can do this, and it only lasts for 15 minutes, and I always feel so good when it's done. But I feel when you're starting, it can feel the decluttering will never end. And I'm just going to say, because I guess everyone has different starting points. So I don't know if it will actually, how long it will take you. But I just know if you're super consistent, it will get done. And it won't feel, for me, it just didn't feel as overwhelming as I thought it was going to. So that was really a good thing for me, because prior to Flylady, I only had overwhelming experiences with decluttering. And then it's like you declutter, right? And then all it takes is like 3, 4, 5 weeks, and then the mess starts building back up again. And you're just like, I know I need to declutter again, but so much work, and it doesn't last. But like with her zones, the way that she has her zones, it's so cool to just see the things that you've done kind of stay that way, because you're always hitting on them, or you always have the opportunity to work on them and to touch them up and to refresh them up, and it doesn't have to be like an overwhelming thing. So it's really cool. I have photos on my wall and quotes, but one thing I'm starting to really get into is plants. Yeah, I'm kind of like getting into plants too. I bought this one plant that I kind of regret buying because it has like these little decorative rocks on the bottom, and like my toddlers like to try to eat them, and so I had to like pull all the rocks out. That's a little random story, but that was me trying to like decorate and stuff. But I don't know, I'm even thinking, like, my kids are like really being hard on my house and my furniture, so I'm kind of getting to the point where I'm like, we might just have to like start over, like, once they get older, because kids can be rough on your furniture. I don't know if any of you guys are dealing with that, but it's like the struggle is real over here. It's a process. That's from Maggie. Leo girl, I find using the timer helpful as well, and having a set home for things that you can return them to. Lists do become overwhelming because this urge to be thorough and writing them. Yeah, it's so true. And that's one thing I do like about the control journal, is sometimes I feel like when you're doing a task, there's the mental element, like planning and like, what should I do? What's the best time to do this? And then there's the physical element, like doing the work. And so sometimes I find that it is helpful to have the mental task done, like the planning done. I know how I'm going to execute this. I know how everything's going to fall into place. But it is exhausting when you feel like you have to like write that list all the time and think about things through all the time. So that is one thing that I do like about having written routines and having the control journal. It's like you just write it done, and that's like your last to-do list. If you just follow the plan and stay consistent with the plan, like, you don't have to use so much mental energy, and you can actually be thinking about other stuff, listening to your podcast, listening to music, while you're cleaning, not having to think about, okay, what should I do next? Would it make sense to do this first, or should I do this first and then come back and do, like, you don't have to do all the thinking. So that's one thing I really like. Trying to use Flylady's concept to get back on track with my business. Girl, this is from DM Roberta. Is it Robertson? Girl, that's me over here trying to do a YouTube channel with 4 kids. I have like idea day, I have recording day, I have editing day. Like, I really have to like break stuff down, because I have the very true likelihood of getting overwhelmed, because it's like, it's really challenging to like show up on YouTube, and I feel such a sense of like purpose, like, here making this content, but it's really like overwhelming sometimes to feel like there's so much that goes into creating like a YouTube channel for me. And I've really had to use Flylady's system to like really break it down, give myself very small, bite-sized goals, just to keep things moving. Like, I'm not going as fast as I would like to. I would love to make like 2 to 3 videos a week, but I'm like, at least it's something. Like, I could easily get caught up in my head and just be like, this is too big, it's too overwhelming. But Flylady's system, not only does it work for your home, but if you really understand it, it's just an awesome productivity strategy that you can use for your business, that you can use to manage, your church group, that you can use to like juggle all the things in your life that you want to. And the crazy thing is that I mentioned that when I started Flylady, I was just like, all of a sudden I had this free time, because I didn't feel the need to do everything at once. And so that's what I do. It's like I have 2 layers of Flylady in my life. I have Flylady for my home, and then I have Flylady for like behind the scenes doing some of the stuff that goes along with YouTube. And so it's like, once I'm done my home stuff, obviously I'm spending the day with my kids, but when I have like pockets of free time, like right now, like I've just finished working, or in the evening once the kids go to bed, I have such a small amount of time, and I have like very small, bite-sized things that I do, and it was really modeled after the way that Marla set up the Flylady system. So that to me is just really awesome. And this is from Sarah. Girl, I'm actually in therapy now over the should, ought to voice in my life. It is so, oh, Sarah, it's like crazy because I'm realizing that I felt that in my home, and now it's just becoming more obvious that I'm feeling the should, ought to in other areas of my life. And I wish that it was something that was just like really easy to shake off. And for me, it's a journey. It's truly a journey, and I know that I still have like a long way to go. And so maybe I need some therapy too, girl. Like, it's so hard. Like, it's so hard. I have a specific example that just popped in my brain that I'm probably not going to share. Well, just like, it's so hard, especially like with parenting. That's one example I can share. Parenting, it's so hard because I feel like we have all these shoulds and oughtas. And if we feel like we're not meeting up to that expectation, sometimes that can be really hard. Like, and so, it's just such a hard thing. So this is from Brooke. My list has to be short. I feel more accomplished when I could go beyond it instead of 25 things that I didn't get to for the day. That is so true, Brooke. It's so nice to just be like, okay, I got my 5 things done. Now I'll have all this energy. I might as well tackle this. I might as well. And to me, it does create like a little ego boost. I'm like, yes, your girl is on it today. So yeah, this is from Maggie. I'm less resentful of others not cleaning. I do it for me. Exactly. That's another trickle effect that I wasn't expecting. Because I used to be like really horrible about like feeling like, oh my God, like why do I have to do all the work? And oh my God, da, da, da. And my husband, he helps so much, but it's like I couldn't acknowledge him and the help that he was trying to provide. Because I just was too busy looking at everything that wasn't done. And so I don't know if that makes any sense, but I feel like now that I am more focused on, okay, what can I do? What can I accomplish? Okay, we're making progress here. Number one, I think it makes it easier for people to jump in when they know what you're doing and they can see the consistency, and they're like, okay, every morning she does the dishes, so I'm going to help her out. Let me go ahead and do the dishes and take that off of her plate because I know she consistently does this. So it makes it easier for other people to know how to help you instead of guessing. And then like if they don't, or if they don't have the opportunity to, or things are too busy, like it's like when you make things so easy for yourself, you don't feel that resentment because you're like, okay, it only took me like 4 minutes to do the dishes, 5 minutes, 6 minutes to do the dishes. And like, it doesn't feel as frustrating because you're not putting yourself in a situation to like feel overwhelmed by that. And so, okay, so there's more comments here. I really wish I could get to all you guys' comments, but it is 8 o'clock. I have to go into the house and start my morning routines. My husband has to work now, but I do want to let you guys know that one more thing before I go. This is kind of like really hard for me to say because it kind of goes along with kind of what we've been talking about. This need that a lot of people have to see how everything is going to work and have it make complete sense on paper before they're really willing to make the first step. And one thing that's really been on my heart is to like offer like coaching, because I know that when you're starting, the Flylady system can be very confusing. And as I told you, I tried to mentor a friend through it, and I could sense it, even though she didn't say it, I could sense that she was just like, okay. And so I do want to offer coaching, but here's the thing, like I've never done anything like that in my life. I've been thinking about it. It's been on my heart to just offer it to anybody who wants to have an accountability partner, have someone maybe talk to them about how they could tweak the program, or just have an outside perspective on how to make the program work for you guys. And so once again, I've never done anything like this. I can't see how it could work from beginning to end, but this is me just putting myself out there. And if there's somebody who is struggling, who wants help with that, who just wants someone to be supportive of them, that is something that I'm going to offer. Like, as I feel like I have limited time right now, like things are really tight, but I believe so much in this and helping people overcome this perfectionism thing, especially as it applies to their home, and not just their home, also their life, that I just, like I said, it's been on my heart to just offer it to that person out there who just feels like things are just really crazy. Like, I do not know where to start. I feel overwhelmed, and like I'm just beating myself up. And so, like I said, I've never done anything like this before. And so if I was like a businesswoman, I probably would have this beautiful um, offer for you guys, this beautiful proposition. But if you guys are interested in anything like that, I am willing to do step one and figure out step 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. If anyone is interested in that. And so my Instagram information, I will put it down below in this video, and just feel free to reach out to me. I think my email address is lovealwaysLaDay@gmail.com. Feel free to reach out to me. And once again, my intention is just to connect with that person who feels like they're really struggling and they're tired of it, and they want to see change. And like, I would be willing to just kind of be your partner in that, if that is something that you're looking for. So that was really hard for me to say, because like I said, like I can relate to that struggle of needing to see everything mapped out, but I don't want to be controlled by that anymore. And so this is me putting myself out there. So all right, guys, I gotta go. My husband is probably like, this girl needs to come and get these kids. So I shall do that. I will talk to you guys next week, next Wednesday. Like I said, I'm gonna do this coffee and car chat for 4 weeks. So this is number 2. I will see you guys next week. Same place, same time, 7 o'clock Wednesday. All right, bye. Oh, and before you go, like, you guys, if you guys could do me a huge favor and just like this video, that really helps my channel out a lot. So just like on your way out. All right, see you guys for real this time. Bye.